Before the first shovel of Earth was ever turned, this project had already claimed more than 20,000 lives. An entire nation had thrown its fortune and its finest engineers at the task, and the jungle had simply swallowed them one by one until the survivors fled and the whole enterprise collapsed into bankruptcy and disgrace. And yet, a few years later, another nation looked at that same graveyard, that same impossible strip of land between two oceans, and decided to try again. The strange part is not that they tried. The strange part is why, with the bodies of the first attempt still fresh, anyone believed the ending would be different. This is the story of the deadliest construction project of its age, and the invisible enemy that no engineer could defeat with steel alone, built by people who believed it could be done. To understand the prize, you have to understand the problem it solved. For centuries, a ship sailing from one coast of the Americas to the other faced a brutal choice. There was no way through. The two great oceans of the world were separated by a thin, mountainous neck of land, and to get from one to the other, a vessel had to sail thousands of extra miles all the way around the bottom of a continent, through some of the most dangerous waters on Earth. The dream was simple and centuries old. Cut through the neck, join the oceans, let the world sail straight across. It was the kind of dream that looks obvious on a map and turns out to be a nightmare in the mud. The first serious attempt came from France, led by the man who had stunned the world by building a great canal through the deserts of Egypt. He arrived with enormous prestige and the confidence of a nation behind him, and he made one fatal assumption. He believed he could simply carve a channel straight through at sea level, the way he had through the sand. But this was not desert. This was dense, drowned, mountainous jungle, drenched by some of the heaviest rainfall on Earth, where the rivers rose without warning and the hillsides slid back into the cuts as fast as men could dig them out. And then there was the thing no one understood yet. Men were falling sick and dying in horrifying numbers from fevers that seemed to rise out of the very air. They blamed the climate. They blamed the swamps and the foul vapors. So when the sick lay in hospital beds, the staff stood the bed legs in small dishes of water to keep the crawling insects away. They did not know that those quiet dishes of still water were breeding the real killer, and that the hospital itself had become one of the deadliest places on the entire isthmus. Now, before the rest of this unfolds, hold this question. Who really conquered this place in the end? Was it the engineers, with their machines and their mountains of earth moved? Or was it someone else entirely, someone whose weapon was not a shovel at all? Hold your answer. The truth surprises almost everyone. The French effort died slowly, and then all at once. After years of labor and a death toll that climbed past 20,000 souls, the money ran out, the company collapsed in scandal, and the jungle began, patiently, to reclaim the rusting machines. It looked like the final word. The neck of land between the oceans had beaten the most ambitious builders on Earth. When a rising young nation took up the abandoned project, its first year on the isthmus was a near repeat of the nightmare. Within months, fevers swept the workforce, and the panic was so complete that the chief engineer made plans to flee for home. By one account, he arranged to bring a metal coffin with him. 3 out of every 4 of the original workers simply ran. The new attempt was teetering on the very same cliff that had destroyed the first. And this is the turning point of the entire story, the moment everything changed. Because by now, in laboratories far from the jungle, a quiet discovery had been made. The fevers that had killed tens of thousands were not carried by bad air, or by the swamps, or by the climate. They were carried by mosquitoes. The enemy that had defeated an entire nation was an insect you could hold in the palm of your hand. Built by people who believed it could be done, once they finally understood what they were fighting. What followed was not, at first, an engineering campaign at all. It was a war on standing water. A relentless sanitary officer took charge and waged it block by block across hundreds of square miles. His teams drained the swamps. They poured oil and kerosene over every puddle and pond to smother the larvae. They screened the windows, fumigated the houses, and cleared the still water from every dish and barrel and gutter where the insects could breed. Slowly, the death rate from the most feared fever fell and fell until that particular terror was driven from the isthmus almost entirely. Only once the invisible enemy was beaten could the visible work, the moving of mountains, truly begin. Earlier, I asked who really conquered this place. Sit with it now, because reasonable people still divide on this. Some say the canal was a triumph of engineering, of the men who carved a path through a continental divide and built the largest locks the world had ever seen. Others insist just as firmly that the engineers would have failed exactly as the French did if the doctors and sanitarians had not won the invisible war first. Machines or medicine? Where do you land and why? Tell me before you hear how it ends, because there is one more truth in this story that complicates both answers. That truth is the cost and who paid it. When the waterway finally opened, the world celebrated the engineers and the leaders and the nation that finished it. But the men who died in the greatest numbers across both the French and the later effort were overwhelmingly laborers brought in from the islands of the Caribbean, from Barbados and Jamaica and beyond. They did the most dangerous digging, lived in the harshest conditions, and their names filled the burial records far more often than they ever filled the history books. The total human price across all the years and all the nations is counted in the tens of thousands of lives. That is the honest shadow beneath the triumph, and it deserves to be spoken as clearly as the records and the rankings. If you changed your mind about who truly won this place, you are in thoughtful company, because historians still weigh the engineers against the doctors and never quite settle it. Tell me where you came down and what moved you. What endures is not just a ditch between two seas. It is a hard, lasting lesson. The greatest obstacle to this enormous feat of engineering was not the mountain, or the rivers, or the distance. It was something too small to see, that no amount of steel or ambition could overcome until it was finally understood. More than a century later, ships still pass through this passage every single day, lifted over a continent by the same basic system those workers bled to build. The knowledge was bought at a terrible price, and it was never lost. It was built by people who believed it could be done. And that's worth remembering. If stories like this one stay with you, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week we bring one more lost machine back to life and tell you the story the history books left out.